Hi guys, welcome to Becodewala. I welcome you to the part 3 of our notes application using MERN stack. So we have completed our backend part. Now we have to go and start with our frontend part, and I'm going to build our frontend part in this tutorial. So if you have not watched part 1, part 2 of the backend of this notes application using Munstack, you can go and watch, and you can get the free source code and give a star if you like the project, and follow me on the GitHub. So we will start building our front end. So you can see that we have to build our login and like sign up page, right? So after that we have to build the dashboard and all. So I have shown you the demo in the part 1, right? So how we are going to set up our front end first? So we are going to use react plus typescript plus tailwind css to build this, right? So I have already explained how to set up react plus typescript plus tailwind css. So you can go on my channel, you can search Becodewala react app setup. You can go and see how to set up a react plus typescript plus tailwind css, right? So you can go and watch that, and you can set up your project, right? So after setup you will get all these files, right? And I have added this version.json file additionally. So why I am adding this? So when your project will be live, right? So on the version, so when you refresh your project on a specific url, right? on, so it will say deployment not found. So so that error we can solve using this version.json configuration. Our app doesn't show that deployment not found error on the version when we refresh your project. So now here these are the config for the TypeScript that you can set up using like watching this tutorial. And and here I have added .env file. Here this is the URL where our server is running, right? So suppose our server is running on the 5000 slash API, right? So when we will, after completing all this front end, we will connect to the backend and we will test everything, so no worries. So and here is the .ignore file. While pushing your code to the GitHub, some files should not be pushed to the GitHub. So for that we have added all these files that should not push to the GitHub, like .env and other files. So I will just write npmi. So I have don't have node modules. I have already set up my react application. You can go and watch this tutorial to set up, right? And here I have added, so added here the name of our application hd nodes client. This is the client side, and the private 2, and the version is the one, and the type I am using module because we are going to use import and export, right? And after that here you will get no no worries. You will get, while setting your react plus typescript plus tailwind, you will get all these things, so no worries. Here I have installed the axios to fetch the data from the backend. So you can install axios like npm I axios. So you can go search axios npm. So you'll redirected to this site, right? And you can see that how to set up axios, and the full detail of the axios you can go and get it from here, right? You can go and check out. So here I have imported lucid react. So lucid react is used for the icons. So lucid react. So if you need icon in your application, you can go to the lucid react, right? This is the official website of lucid react. There you will get the many types of icon, you can use it. So to use it we have to install our lucid react in our package.json, right? and after that I have installed react hot toast. So whenever the user is sign in, the user is log out, right? It is, suppose I have added some notes here, suppose it's the random note, so it will show a message, see, notes created successfully. This is the toast message. So this toast message will be appear using this package react hot toast. So you can write like npm i react hot toast. So these are the package you have to install, and react router DOM for the different pagination, right? We are on the dashboard right now. So who is redirecting to the dashboard? So this path is we are going to define in our react application using react router DOM. So react router DOM, so you can go install, and after that, after setting all these things, you will get all this full source code on my github, so no worries. So here I have to start my server npm run dev. So my server is started. Hello from the front end. Our app is started, right? And it is showing sign in. Why? Let me go to the, see, now it is working totally fine. So when you set up your react app for the first time, you'll see a blank project, right? So we have set up our react. So we are going to build all this. So when you set up, you have to you will get your src folder. If you don't get the src folder, you can create in your root folder here src folder. In that we have to create a asset file. So while login, you can see that we have this image on the right side. So this is the image we are going to use, right? And in the components, right, in the components we are going to build different components like buttons, right? Inputs, we'll build one component, and that input button we can use at many places, right? So that's the power of react. So here we are going to use context. So we are not using redux toolkit because we are building a small project. So we can use react context. So this react context will store our like auth context while signing and redirect into the dashboards. So these pages will create pages folder in our src. All this folder we have to create in our src folder. Then pages will be sign in page, sign up page, dashboard page. And then in service like this will call the apis and all, and the type will define the types for, because we are using typescript. So for the safety, type safety of our project, we are going to use types. And in the index.js, here I have used this the Google font pop-ins. So how to get the Google fonts? So go here in our browser, pop-ins font. Here you can see you will get this pop-ins font. You will get click on get font, get embedded code, and here import, right? This is the import for the css, right? You can see that in the style tag it is shown, but we are not, we have to copy this url, not the style tag, and paste it here. And here for the whole web page we want to use this poppins, right? Font family. So we can write it here. So this how we have to set up. These are the prerequisites, so we have to need. So after that, let's start building our react application. So these are the setup you have to do. So all the setup has been done for our application. Now we can start writing the code for that. So we will start with our types. So in the types folder we have to create index.ts file. We can create a file. There we will define all the types that we need in our project. Suppose we need types for our like user. So export interface user, and in that we can define id string, right? Id string, then full name, string, then email, string, and date of birth, string. So why we are writing all these things? So when the user is signing, so the user is filling his full name, right, the date of birth and the email. So I've written date of birth, email, and full name. And but where this IDs come from? So whenever user sign up here, it it the data of the user is saved into mongodb database, right? I have shown you in my backend tutorial. So let me open my mongodb atlas. So this app you can install all this. So if you need how to set up mongodb URI and all over the things, so you can go and watch my YouTube channel. Go, and here you will get a to do. So here to do list app using Mustang. So this is the first tutorial that I have built using Mustang, right? So there I have explained everything in very detail, how to get the MongoDB URI, and we can install all this MongoDB at Compass in your like local. And to connect, you can here click on the plus icon, paste your MongoDB URI, and the database will be connected, right? So if you face any issue, let me know in the comments. I will help you with that. So you can see that when the user is saving, this ID is automatically created by, this is the unique ID created by the MongoDB, right? So this ID we are using here, right? This is the ID. This is the type string we have defined here. Now we are creating nodes, right? So for the nodes also we can define the types. So nodes interface node, and in this id string we can write id string, title string, and we can write the content of the nodes, right? Then created at and updated at, and here no need user id, so that will take the reference from here. So we can similarly define the types for the other things like export interface auth state. So th- this state we can manage in our context, right? React context. So this auth context, right, auth state that we are going to use in our auth context that we will create here, right? So this state contain the user data. When the user is signing in, right, it contain the user data. So here we can define the user data is authenticated or not. We can here define it is true or false. It will store, and the loading is boolean, means the user is signing, right? When the user is signing here, it will show a loading, right? So that's the functionality we need in our React application. And now when we are sign up, right? So when we are sign up, so we can define the types for that also separately. So that type should be like, because when we are sign up, right, we have a OTP also, right? When we sign up, it will send OTP, we have to enter OTP. But in the user data, this is the user data, right? Here we are not using this is the separate. So we have to define the types for the sign in and sign up separately, so it will be very easy to manage, right? Otherwise you can create one both at a time and make it a optional, so no worries. So I'll create the separate types for the sign in and sign up for the simplicity. Sign up data, and there I'll define the full name, email, and not the password. We need date of birth, right? So when we are sign up, we need name, email, date of birth, and not the password. We need, and we need OTP also, right? So when we'll sign up, suppose I enter random data, right? Let me enter random data. That the demo I have shown you in the first part of our backend of this notes application. So you can watch. So let me write a random email. So suppose it's loading, right? It is sending the OTP. The OTP is sent. Then we have to enter the OTP. I can see the OTP is sent successfully. So that OTP or is of type string that we are going to use. Export interface interface sign in data, and in this we have to write the email and OTP. So why we are using email and OTP? Because when we go to the sign in, we have to paste our email because we have already signed up in our database, right? The user has already registered in the database. So the user had to sign in again. When the user come back, he can enter their email, and the email will be checked in the database. Is it present? So then it will send the OTP, and then user can log in, sign in. So and user will get the all their notes and sign up for the user who are signing for the first time, right? So here they can enter name, email, and they can verify their email, and when the email will be verified, then only they will be registered to the database, right? So these are the checks that we have implemented in our backend very very carefully. So you can check our backend code. I've explained in two parts in very very detail. You can go on my channel, right? Here you will get the, you can see that one day ago I've uploaded our build a full stack node application using Mustang. You can see that this is the two parts, part 1 and the part 2, right? You can go and check it out. So after defining the types, we can define the context and API. So I will start with our API services. So first we can create the api.ts file, and there we'll write out all the services that we need to write. So let me tell you what is api.ts file. So there we will define the all the function that will call on our all the routes that we have defined in our backend code, right? So let me write and I'll explain you. So I'll import like sign in data from the types and sign up data. So in the index.ts we have exported also. See, we are when we are defining the types, interface may, why we are using interface, because we can reuse in our other components, right? So here we are exporting and we are using in our api.ts because we need this type, right? So it's ensure our application type safety should be protected, right? And here we can define our API base URL, and this API base URL, this contain our this, where is our .env file? This is our .env file. Here our database is running. This is the localhost database, right? Suppose you are running on our render on the deployment on the production. You are running your backend on the render. Then we have to copy their running link and we have to copy and paste here. And we are using API, right? The suffix that will be common to all the routes, right? While building our routes in the backend, we have used this API, right? this word API, right? Because we can identify that this is the like backend routes, right? So that's why we have used this. So if you have not watched the backend tutorial, you can go and watch. Otherwise like you will not be able to understand all these things. So we'll define one constant and there we'll write axios dot create, and there we will define the base URL, right? And in the headers we'll type the content type application.js and with this credential true. So this is, we have created this, right? And this thing we can use whenever we need in our application. So this is the boilerplate code that we have created. Axios.create, right? This is a like instance of that Axios, right, for this API, and this contains the base URL. So let me go to the Axios. Let me, so when you will go to the npm, where is your Axios? See, Axios dot, these are the methods, right? Where is Axios dot create? Axios dot create. So see, the same thing I have written in my code axios.create. Then you have to pass the base URL, right? And these are the headers we can pass timeout. So there are many things that we can pass. And this instance method, like the available instance method are listed below. So there you can write the axios get, delete, head. These are the requests that we can pass to our application, right? Instance we have created and with credential true. While building our backend, we have passed the with credential true, right? So it enable cookies for the cross origin request. So like our backend is deployed on the different server, so we need like cookies, right, to check the request coming from the authorized or unauthorized user, right? So for that we have passed with credential true. And headers, in the headers we have passed the JSON. The content should be of type JSON, right? And after that we have to write the request inceptor for this. So API dot inceptors dot response. So we have to write request first. So dot use, and there we'll write the config, and there in the config we can write like return config. And if any errors comes, suppose any errors comes, so here we can write return promise dot reject error. So let me inceptors, so axios inceptors. So you can see that if you need to improve, if you need to remove inceptor later you can. So here is the how to create inceptors request for the API. So this request inceptor like to the Axios instance. So this is the API that the name is using Axios. This is the instance we have created, and there we are adding a request inceptor. So this we have passed the return config, right? This function run before every request is sent, and you can modify the config. Like here is the configuration that we have written here, right? And if any errors will come, it will run this, and it will like the like if any misconfiguration and invalid headers or data, then it will show this error. Like suppose the axios get like send the request, the axios will give the response also, right? So we have to write the response, right? So for response we can write like api dot inceptors dot response, and there we have to use like response, and it will return the response, right? It will return the response, and there is a config. So here we have to pass when we are requesting some configuration, like this data we need, right? We are sending some data to the request, and from the like backend we are getting some response. So who is sending request and response? Axios. And here if any errors come like, so we can write like this, or if you don't want to write like this, you can just like return the like here the promise, and it is okay. So if you don't want to write, you can avoid that. Similarly, like we have written above, you can write like below also. So axios is very helpful in the handling request and response, right? Now we can write the like auth apis, so where we have defined api in our backend, right? So export const auth api, and this auth api we have to write send sign up otp, and there we have to pass the data. So and in the data we have to pass, let me write data, and let me write, then I will explain you, no worries. Email string, then we can like pass the email we have passed, right? full name full name string and date of birth string, and we can api dot post api sign up otp, send otp, send otp data. So why we are writing this? So let me show you. So in our backend, right? That is our backend. So we have written all this backend code, right? So it will be in our controller. So auth controller. Let me open with another. Open with uh, VS Code. So this is the auth controller of the backend, right? So this is the send sign up OTP, right? And here we are using send sign up OTP, the same thing we have written here, right? And this controller takes the like what are the things, name, full name and date of birth from the request, right? This is the data, right? This is the data we have to send from the our front end, right? api.post auth sign up send otp data, and where we have defined all these routes. So in auth routes, go to the, so in the auth routes we have defined sign up send otp, sign up, the same route should be here also, otherwise it will be mismatched. And this auth, and in the env we have written the api and auth, right? On each request, right? The api and api will be common, right? So in our So if you have not watched, you can go and watch, because I have explained all these things. So here you can see that on auth routes we have defined API auth, API nodes on the nodes. So this API is common, right? That's why we have passed the API here. And auth for the like authentication we are doing, right? Sign up OTP. So these are the things we have to pass from our front end, right? That we have defined here in the controller, right? These are the things. And for this route, and this is the post request because we are sending some data to the like backend. So here we can where is our here, so post request, you can see that a post request for this routes, right? So these are the simple thing, right, that we have to define. This is the how we have to write a very modular code and in a very professional way, right? So similarly for the verifying OTP, so this is OTP sign up OTP has been sent. Now we have to verify sign up OTP, right? So for that also we can write here the code. So verify sign up OTP. So and we have to write in this here only below, right? So let me write comma. So what is showing here, verify sign up OTP. mm, we can remove this curly braces. Yeah, no need, this curly braces no need here. And here verify sign up OTP comes from here, verify sign, and this taking the email and the OTP, right? The data, sign up data. So this sign up data is coming from where? We have not written here like email, full name, date of birth here, right? Here we have written sign up data. Where this sign up data is coming from? Our api.ts. This is the name, full name, OTP, all this data it is taking. So while verifying, it will check that like with your full name, email and date of birth, right? Everything is valid or not. That everything we have defined here, right? So and after verifying OTP, it will create like your full name and date of birth in our database, right? So for that we have pass here. And after that we can write for the sign in also. This is for the sign up. Similarly we can write for the sign in. So I'll just copy paste here. So this sign in, send sign in OTP, this comes from our backend here. Send sign in OTP, this is the backend code, and there we are passing the email, right? So this email of type string, and there we have passed here the root, send sign, and here we are sending OTP for the sign in, not for the sign up. And this is the data, right? That will come in the response, right? And here verify sign up OTP. Similarly we have passed this interface, right? Email OTP, right? This, so you can see that this is the use. So once we have defined here, we can use here. This is the power of typescript. And after that we have defined the another routes like verifying sign in OTP, after that logout and the get profile. So for the logout also we no need to pass anything, right? Because in the auth controller we have to just remove the cookies from the like token from the cookies, right? So we are not getting like passing anything from the front end, just api dot post with this route. And for the getting the profile also, we are just getting profile. We are not passing anything from the front end here. Just go to the get profile that we have defined according to your like your what did we say, like backend code. We have to write the like front end. The how we have defined in the backend, we have to define in the front end also, right? So it take the cookies from your like browser, and there it will authorize, and then it will give the profile, right? So no need to pass here from the front end. Here the backend will automatically take from your like browser, right? So these are the routes that we have defined for the auth, right? Now we have to get the nodes, right? We have to create the nodes, right? Here we have to get the nodes, create the nodes, right? After signing. So for that also we have to create. So I'll just copy and paste and show you. So similarly I've created export nodes API, right? Like auth API. There also, to get the nodes, we are not passing anything from the front end like we have defined in our backend. So if you not watch backend, you can go and watch our backend part, and there you can see that for the getting nodes api.get, this is the method on the axis, right? With this path, so it will get all the nodes. And create nodes, we have to pass the title and string, right? So when we are creating our nodes, we have to pass the like title and content of our like the nodes that we have to create, and it will give me the response. And then like we have to pass this update node. So here you can see that we are passing title and content, but here we are passing the id also, like we have defined in our backends. So why we need this id? Because suppose we have multiple nodes and I want to update only one node, so that one node should have a particular id that is defined by our mongodb. So when you are creating any document, so that document has a object id, so this is the unique id created by the mongodb. And with these nodes, that nodes will be updated with this right data, like whatever you want to update, like title and content, this data, right? We are passing with the put request to update. And delete node. So suppose I want, we have multiple nodes but I want to delete one, so that one node should have a particular id, so we'll get that id and we'll delete that id. So this is this all these things we have defined in our like while creating our backend routes, right? So go and watch the backend part if you have not watched, and after that we can export our api. So this api instead that we have created, we have exported. Now we can use this, we have defined all the routes. Now we can directly use wherever we need all this data, and we have to send some requests, we can use it in our each and every component wherever we need, right? So let's start building our components that we need in our nodes application. Like we have a input that is common, we are using 3 times here, we are using 1 time in the sign in, right? So we can create a separate component and we can use how many times we need, right? And these are the buttons we are using here and here, so we can create one button component, we can use all over it, right? So we are going to create the components, right? And the while we can see that when clicking on get otp, it is loading, right? So we can create the loading spinner also, we can create the protected out, we can protect our suppose I want to go for the dashboard. So when I try to go to the dashboard, it will me redirected to the sign in, right? Because that route is protected, that route will be accessed only if user is authenticated, the user like token is present in our cookies, right? Then only user will be accessed to dashboard. So that all these components we are going to build right now. So in the component, in the src, in the components folder, we are going to build a new file. First we'll start with the button.tsx, right? So in the button.tsx we will write import, and we in this button we need, while clicking on this button, we need like loading spinner, right? So we can build the loading spinner first. Loading loading spinner.tsx, right? So in loading spinner.tsx we can import this code is very simple. So once we created this loading spinner, we can use whenever we need this loading spinner while creating your nodes, while like updating your nodes, while signing, because we are interacting with the database, right? So it may take time, so we can use loading spinners, right? So react, from react, and we can create interface for this because we are using typescript. So and we can define different sizes for the loading, right? Suppose we are using small buttons, right? So in the buttons, while creating button, we can create a different size of the buttons, right? And according to that button we can apply the different sizes of the loading spinners, right? So for that we are going to write the loading spinner interface. There we can define the size, which will be optional. We can choose either of this. So md, so like medium size, a small size, right? A small, md, and large. So we are going to use the size like small, medium, and large. And class name, class name would be string, right? And because in tailwind css classes are string, right? Let's create our loading spinner. Like you can see that it is giving me recommendation, right? Loading spinner size classes and return. So what we have done, we have created a constant loading spinner, right? And there we have passed the react functional component. There this is the types we have defined. So react dot, because this is the functional component, each of these component are functional component, right? So this functional component have a types loading spinner, right? And we are passing the size equal to md as a default, and the class name, you can, we are passing empty, we can add more classes to it, no worries. So and default we are passing medium, and here the different size classes for the small, width 4, height 4, the loading. And for the medium we can increase the little size, for the large we can increase, you can use the excel if you want. So for the different categories and size we can write, and then it will return the JSX because we are using the react functional component. It will return some JSX, like here in the div we animate spin rounded full border 2, and we can write border gray 300, border gray. It depend on you how your spinner should be. And border T blue, border T blue, and I will take it's 600. And there you can add the sizes. When we are using this like spinner, you can add the sizes, what type of size of spinner you want in your buttons or anywhere we are using. And there we can define the classes, right? Class name, the additional class name, additional styling, you can use it here, right? No worries here. And if you want more customization, you can write here, right? Like redirecting, like sign in, loading, and sign up, creating notes, that's load. So different text you can write here also. So it depend on you how you want to use it. And then after that, to use this spinner we have to export, right? Loading spinner, so this functional component we have exported here, right? Now we can use our buttons. So when we sign in or sign up, right, we can use in our buttons. And while signing, it may take time because we are interested with the database. And there we can show the loading for the user, and importing react from react, then import like loading spinner from the loading spinner, and After that we can define interface for the buttons, because we are also going to use different sizes of buttons, right? Like we use for the spinner. And here I've added a property here, right? From like button HTML attribute HTML button elements. This is provided by the typescript. This is the type, right? And this type contain this is the interface, right? So see, for the different HTML element, body element button, the data element button, these are the types interface that is already defined by the typescript that we are going to use in our react, right? Like we have created the interface, right? So here, so there also the typescript in our, like we are using the typescript, right? So for this element button element, we have defined the HTML button element. That type will be applied to this interface button, and if it is loading we can write like boolean. And for the different variant, like suppose you want to use the buttons, like here we are using the blue one, but if you want to reach red one somewhere, so how we are going to use this? So we can define variant, and we can write primary, secondary, danger, success. So these are the like colors right, like given by the tailwind css. If you don't know tailwind css, go and learn tailwind css, and it is very easy to learn. And here we can define the size like we define for others, like a small, then medium and large. And we can define the children, the react node, right? The of type react node, so children are of type react node, right? And after that we are going to write the functional component for our button, right? So const button, and we can define the type react dot functional component. And then we can write like, here we can write variant, whatever the interface we have created here, that four things that we have to pass here. So I will pass the variant as a primary, right? And the size is medium. Then loading false. Initially the loading will be false. When the user will click, then it will like load, right? And we can write the class name, and um, class name is done, right? And after that we can write, because we need the custom classes, if you want we can use it. And disable is the button. When we want the button should be, when suppose user has click on this and it is sending the email, so until the OTP is sent to the email, we have to stop user, like we can't click again to send the OTPs. So we have to disable the button, right? So until one process complete, we can't continue with the other process. And we can pass the props. And after that we can write our functional component here, and there we can define. So why it is showing, so button is declared but never read, so we will read it. So let me write the like base classes, right? So what are the style we are going to use, right? So this base classes contains like different style, like inline flex, item center, that button content, right? And justify center, then font, rounded, rlg, how the button look. So that thing we are defining here, right? That is okay, right? Now the variant classes. So on the primary, suppose I use primary, so how the style will be applied on the buttons, right? If I use here the secondary, the danger, right? So how, so we can use, we can define in a variant class. There we can define different objects like primary, secondary. On the primary it will be busy blue, hover, busy blue 700, text will be white, focus will be ring blue 500. So we can define this how, when you use side cn. So if you have know this or not, side cn, so when you use their components like buttons, so when we like install, like you can see that the buttons, these buttons, so this you can use like this, you can import the button from when you install all these things. So in the a component folder will be created, in that ui the button.tsx folder will be there, and there, like we are writing this all these things similar way, the that button like style and the component for that button has been created. So in this fashion only the sad cn has used, right? And the sad cn has used, and we can use the sad cn if you want. So I'm creating all these things, right? If you want you can use like sad cn, or the best will be daisy ui for the react. So this, the daisy is great for the react developers. You can go and use it like create on components. You can install the daisy ui in your project, and suppose you want to use button, no need to create all these button things, right? Like we are writing the code for the faster development, we can use like buttons that is created by the daisy ui. So you can see the different buttons, small, medium, default. See the different buttons has been, so you can see the html, jsx, right? So these are the buttons that are available in the daisy ui, right? So see the loading, the see different login with the google, these are the buttons, right? You can directly use it from here also, so it will save your time and no need to write all these long codes. So if you want the custom codes for your choice, so you can write and you can style differently according to your needs. And similarly for the small and medium, all these things we have defined, right? Suppose you want a small size, so we can for the small size padding x and padding y, and the text will be small for the small size, and for the large we have defined different. And after that we can define the disable also, const disable, each disable, each disable. So if it is disable, otherwise loading, right? And after that we have to return jsx, because we are using a react functional component, right? So button, and in this button we have to pass many things, right? So let me show you. In the button we have to pass the class name, so we have to apply the tailwind css, right? So here the base class, so base classes, when you use this it will apply this base class which will be common to all buttons. Suppose you want to use separate variant, so the variant has been primary here, right? So variant classes, and then the size comes from here. So this is the object, how to access your object. So you can use in a array like here. So you can see that when you hover, so small, medium, large. So and is disabled, so if it is disabled you can it decrease the opacity and cursor not allowed. So when you try to click, right, it will not be clicked. And the class name, so extra thing that class style you want to apply on the buttons, so you can apply it. And here disable, so it will check for the disabled, if it is disabled or not, and the props, so that takes the all the property of the buttons. And there after that we can define is loading, then we can show the loading spinner. So this loading spinner that we have created, that component, right, that's a spinner when we have to show if it is loading, and the size will be small, and the margin right will be 2. And there we can define all the children, and in the children we can pass like for the sign in and sign up, so that have a different property. We have a text like sign up OTP button, right, and verify, so that the different text will be comes from your children, so we are pass the children here. Then after that we have to export the button, so we have exported the button, right. And why the variant class is showing error, so here it is showing the this error, the typescript here. So this is the power of typescript. So it has give the error right primary secondary danger success cannot be used on the right primary secondary and outline, right. You can see that the typescript tell you the error, right, so you can fix during the coding, right. So it is saying the outline here, because we have used here outline, but here we have defined the primary secondary danger success, so you can write here outline. So now the error will be fixed. So let's see, primary secondary outline success, primary secondary outline, this is the danger, right. So here we have used danger, right, and here we have used success. So my god, danger. So now see the error has been fixed. So you can see that the typescript, if you use javascript, right, so it may not give error this. So if you use typescript, you can see that it is clearly, it will show the error during your coding time only. So that's the power of typescript, and it will also help in autocomplete. So typescript is very powerful, so you can use it. And now we can create the input. So input dot tsx, so let me write with the input. So in the input you can see that this is the input that we are going to create. So I will import the react from react, then I will import forward ref from react. So we are forward ref is a utility function provided by the react that allow you to forward a ref through a component to one of its child DOM element. So particularly when it is helpful when we are building reusable component like input buttons, and you want the parent component to be able to directly access the DOM element inside of it. So that time we are going to use it. So I will write the further code and you will understand why we are going to use forward ref here. So we have to use the interface. So this interface input props, and we are going to extend the HTML input element that is provided by the TypeScript, right. And after that we are going to label an error of type string for the input. Then if any icon is there, then we can write like react node, right, for the icon. And we can create our react functional component. So const input equal to forward ref and in this we have to pass the type. So html, let me use, so this is the html, that this is the html input, this is the type for the like forward ref, that here also we have used. Then the we are going to pass the props, because we are going to use this input in our parents component when we will build the sign in or sign up page, right? So when we will pass the data, like let's go and see. So like here we are using the email, this data and the icon for this input. So this data and icon and the input and the label, all this pass from our parents. So this all acts as a props that we are passing to this child component input, right? And here we are taking as a props like label, error, icon, and class name. So we can also write the class name equal to empty class name, and let me remove this, and then we have a props and the ref. Then it is going to return a input type. So in this, before returning some JSX, we can write another thing like if any password, but we are not going to use that input password, so we can just return the JSX here. So here in this div we have to write the label. So this labels data come from our parent. Then when we will build our parent like login and sign up page, so we will pass that data. And in this label, if any label is there, so how we are going to show, so let me write it here, label. So if any label is there, make it block, font small, size medium. If any error, then show that, right? So I'm going to use this. So let me, so here I have taken the like styling for the space Y from the vertical, and here if any label is there, make it label block, text small, font medium. So what is label? Label is this is the email text you can see on the top, this is the label, right? Now after that we have another thing like icon that we are going to use here, right? So for that icon we can use the div class, and in that we can define our icon. So I will take a div class, and in this div class, so now we have to show the icon in the input. So to show the icon we can take a div, and in this div we can make it position relative, and there we can show the icon like we have shown the label, right? So this if it is if icon is passed, then make it icon like this, position absolute, inset y 0, left 0, and padding left 3, and text gray 400. So this how we can style our input. And another thing we have like if input tag, right? If you have input tag, how we are going to get all the data, right? So after this div, here in input we have to pass the ref. So in our input we have passed the ref, and this ref take like all the data passed by the our parent, and that will provided to the child component, and that will be helpful the parent component to be able to directly access the DOM element inside of it. So here we have defined some classes how our inputs should look like, and the icon, and if any error then show this, and we can add the class name, and the props, the data come from our parent, right? So after this we can create an error thing. So how we are going to handle the error? So for that I'm just going to use, so here we can write like the error. So let me write out of this, we can write here. So if any error comes, we can show in a red color and is small. So here suppose I try to random OTP, so it show me invalid or expired OTP. So this error message, you can see that in the red color of the text small, right? And we can write another thing, input dot display name equal to input, and we we can export our input. So we have exported our input, right? So our input component is completed. Now we can continue with the other component like layout. So how our the layout of the login and sign up will be. So you can see that this image is common, only this left side the form field is changing for the sign in and sign up. So how we are going to build this layout? So to build this layout, we will create a file layout.tsx, and in that layout.tsx we have to define how our structure of the sign in and sign up will be. So we can import the react from react, and you can see that we have imported the right.jpg image, right? This image on the right side that will appear. And now we can create interface for this. So layout props. So here in this layout, what are the children that this is the children, this component, the sign in and the sign up, this is the children. So it is changing, right? So in this layout, this component is the children. So we have to define a children, right? Children of type react dot node, and we can write a so wave, so so wave boolean, right? And after that, similarly we can create a const layout, the our functional component layout, and we can define the types as a react dot fc layout props. This we have to pass here, and after that we have to return something, right? So we can return, so I'm going to remove this and I'm going to use the react fragment. And here you can see that the children and the show web that we have created, so we have passed as a true because I want to show this right side image, right? So let's write, so we'll create a div, and in this div we'll write the minimum height screen for this layout, so that it will take the full height of the screen on your device height screen. And then we can write the like bg gray 50, and we can write the flex, so it will be in a row, right? After that, in this we have to define two sections, the left where sign in and sign up component will be changed, and the right side the image will be common, right? So how we are going to define? So we'll create a div, and in this div we have to pass the flex 1 and the flex, an item center and the justify center, and padding for the large and small device. So flex 1 is most important. So here in this we can take the width full and maximum width MD, so that it will take only half of this layout. and half will be the image on the right side, right? And here we have passed children. So who are the children? So this the component, here we have seen that the sign in and sign out component are the children. And for the right side, so we have to show this image, show wave, right? So this image is shown, right? So when we have to show the image, right? So let's me create for the right side. So in the right side, when we are showing that image, then then that time hidden for the small devices. So when we have to show on the large devices, we are showing, suppose we are on the small devices, so see it disappear, right? See, only the sign up page is visible. So for that we have written hidden here, and on the large devices it will be flex, so that it will show, and flex one, so that it will take the half of the side, and relative position and overflow hidden. Then we have created one more div, and we have created a background gradient, right? From blue we have blue, and after that we can give a the how the image will be. So we have created a div here, and in this div we are showing the image in the background, right? That image is coming from there, that we imported on assets, and that image we are going to use, and we can make it background size cover and background position center, so that the image will be perfectly fit in the div, right? So this is for the right side, and this is for the left side. So we have built this, right? So now we can create another component like protected route. So why we are going to build protected route? Protected route.tsx. So this protected route.tsx, why we are going to create it? Because suppose I want to access the dashboard, so I will not able to access the dashboard because I am not authenticated. This route, the dashboard route is protected, only the authorized user will access. So here it is redirecting me to sign in page. So how we are going to build this? So in this we have to import the first react, then we can import use navigate. So this will navigate me to the where, not use navigate, we can use navigate only. We can import the navigate, this will navigate me to the sign in page if I am not authenticated. And we can import the use auth, and this use auth context will create, we have not created it, so that will create, and this use auth will store that the user data, that when the user will like sign in, right? So in the context we have to store in the global store the user data for the check for the user is authenticated or not. Then we have to show loading spinner, right? And after that we can create interface for the protected route for the, and the children will pass is the react node. And who all will be the children? Like the component that we have to show. So if it is not authenticated, it will show the sign in, otherwise it will show the dashboard. If you are authenticated, the dashboard is our child. So now we can create a functional component with the name protected route, and let me remove all these things. So protected route, this is the functional component, and we have passed the type protected route, that the interface that we have created, and we pass the children as a props. So we will check const here is authenticated, and loading from the use auth. That use auth we have to create this this our custom hook, right? So we will create it, and after that, if it is loading, how we are going to show the spinner, right? So if it is loading, then return this. So in this we are showing the spinner of large size, right? And after that, suppose user is not authenticated, how we are going to redirect? So if user is not authenticated, then return, right? In the navigate, pass the sign in. This is the path, navigate to the sign in page. So this path we will create in our app component, right? For the each each pages. So if user is not authenticated, you can see that not authenticated, then navigate to the sign in page. So it will navigate to the sign in page, and after that we can return the child, right? And we can export our protected route so that we can use it in other components, right? So we have to create this. So context, context, auth context. So let's create our context. So in context we have to create the auth context.tsx .tsx. In auth context.tsx, let me make C as a capital so that it will be easy to read. So auth context.tsx is our global store, and this is the custom hook that we are going to build for the user authentication. And first of all, we are going to import our react create context to create our context, use context to use our context, get a custom hook, and use reducer and use effect. All these things we are going to import. So after that, we can import the types for the user and the auth state, right? The types we have defined here in the index.js. Import the auth API that we are going to use from the service API. So in the service we have created the api.ts, so that we have to import and use for the request to the different routes. So auth API from service slash API, and after that we can import the like interface. So we can create the interface here, auth context props. So we can write auth context type, and here we can use the type of this extend. So this is a power of interface in typescript. We can use the auth state is a type for this auth context, and auth state come from our where is our types. So index.ts. So auth state where user data will be present, user is authenticated or not, or loading. So these three things will be present. So here we'll pass the login, and in this we can pass the user and return a void, then log out and set loading equal to boolean, and it will also return a void. So these are the function we are going to create. So we'll first create a context. So auth context equal to create context and auth context type that we have defined, and otherwise it will be undefined. And initially the auth context will be undefined because suppose no user is present. So type auth action. So in this we are going to define some auth action, right? So that is also a type like we use interface to create the different types that we can use. And here also you can use one more method, that is type, provided that the typescript, where we can define the type. If is login, then payload user, and if we type logout, then no need to send the user data, right? And if it is loading, then payload boolean. So according to this, you can see that we have passed all this data, the actions that we are going to perform. Then we can create a auth reducer, and there we have to pass the our state will be auth state, and the action like login, logout, and set loading, what are the action we are going to perform. So we are going to use switch, and in this we use the action dot type. Suppose if action type is login, right? So we'll create a case for that. So if case equal to login, these are the simple switch case that we learn in the JavaScript, right? If it is login, then it will return the state of the data with the user action payload with the logging, and authenticated will be true, that user is authenticated, and loading will be false. Then for the logout case, so this name should be same, and here, and so we are returning the state that user has logout, and here we are making the user as null because the user has logout. Authenticated is false and loading will be false. And for the loading, when the it is loading, then that time we can pass the state, like we are going to use spread operator, and then make it the loading action dot payload, right? And here we, for the default, return the state. So this state is the auth state that we have defined here, user authenticated and loading. Then after that we can create the initial state. So const initial state equal to auth state of, this is the type for the initial state, and there in the initial, suppose user is there, right? Suppose the user is null and authenticated false and loading is true, right? Then we are going to create our auth provider, so that we can use this context, right? So export const auth provider, right? I'm going to remove all this. I'll write. So first you can see that the auth provider, so this is the auth provider that we are going to use in our other component, right? This provide to use this all this state that we have stored in our context, right? So here we can given the types for the this auth provider, like children equal to react node, because we are going to use in our like login page, sign up page, right? And from there we are going to create a state, const state equal to state and dispatch, two things we are going to use in the reducer. So why we use reducer? So we are going to use reducer because it is a React hook that we are going to manage the complex state logic. Like for the simple state logic, we have used like use state. For the complex state logic, we are going to use our use reducer, and you have a multiple related state values, and the next state depend on the previous state. So and you can make the predictable state update, And if you want, you can use redux like button without using redux. So that is the power of use reducer. Here are the two states, the state and the dispatch, two things. And it will take the auth reducer, right, and the initial state that we have provided. And after that we can create a use effect, right? We have to create a use effect. So in that use effect we are going to write for the checking auth. So before that, for before checking, we can write the function for the login and logout. Const login, it will take the user data and it will save to the local storage. So we are going to use local storage and set item and with the name user json.stringify, and after that we can dispatch. So we are going to dispatch of type login and payload user, right? Similarly we can write for the logout. So const logout, so we can just simply remove the user from the local storage and we can dispatch the type logout. Otherwise we can also, we have another method tool logout, so we can just call the API here. So let me write it here. So here we are going to try and catch, and here we have to make the async function for the logout, and here we are using the auth API logout. So this auth API that we have created in the api.ts, right? So here is a auth API. In this we have a like logout. So it will call this route, right? And it will be logout. So you can use this way to user logout, and if any error we can catch the error, and finally we can remove the user from the local storage that we have saved here, right? While login we are setting to the local storage, and we can dispatch the action type logout here, right? So we can create for the set loading, right? So for the set loading, if like here we are dispatching the action set loading, and in the payload we are passing the its loading as a true and false, right? After that we can finally write our use effect. So check the existing section on the app load, right? So we are going to use effect to check the existing session. So how we are going to check? So we can create use effect, and there, and we have to pass the dependency also. So we can pass the empty dependency so that it will run once. Const check auth and const check auth, and in this we have to create a async function, and how we are going to check the user is present in the existing session or not. So first of all we'll make the set loading true, and here in the try and catch block we can use the response await.auth profile, right? Check the auth. If user is authenticated we can get the user profile. So in the api.ts we will get profile. This is the route we have defined, and with that route it will call this get profile. If we get the response we'll restore the user information. So we have to store dispatch like login here. So we have to use the dispatch so that our data should be present, and it should be data type login, right? So we can dispatch the data response dot data dot user dot user, and we have created our dispatch. And after that we can, if any errors comes, we can write the here error, right? And after that we can remove the local, from the local state we can remove the user and type logout, right? So we can handle that also here. And here it is showing the error of type unknown, so we have not defined the type error. Otherwise you can simply write the console.error, right? So we can remove this and simply write the console error, no worries. So it will say auth check failed. And after that finally set loading false, right? And we can write the dispatch here, and here we can write the set loading false. No need to write here. In the dispatch we have to write here. And then after this we have to call our function that we have created, right? So check auth function we have to call, and it will run only once, right? Then we have to wrap in our provider. So after this we have to return auth context dot provider, and here we have to pass the state, login, logout, and set loading, right? These are the value: login, logout, state, right? So and in this we are going to show the children, so it will wrap around our children. So when we use, like, we go to the dashboard, that time the dashboard will be the children component, right? And here we can remove this. So this is how we have created our auth context provider. To use this, we have to use context. So we have created our use context. So to use this, we can create export use auth, and there, here no need to pass the type auth context type here. Just create the use auth, and there we have to create a context const constant use context. So this use context is the auth context that we have created here on the top, right? So we have to use that context here to use this. So this use context will use this context, and we can import and export for the other component to use. So if, so we are going to use this context whenever we create the node, delete the node, update the node, right? If context equal to undefined, we can write here constant equal to undefined, then we can show a error, right? So error will be like use auth must be within a auth provider, right? Otherwise we are going to return, let me return here first, return context. So otherwise it will return the constant. So use auth is our new custom hook that we are going to use. We have exported it, we are going to use in our other component, right? So no worries about this error. This is the type error. If you want, you can define the type of the error, and here we can now import it, and protected route is fixed, and here in is authenticated loading, why it is showing is loading does not exist, type authent. Here in the auth context we have passed the loading, but you have to pass is loading, so that's why it is showing the error here. So we have to pass the is loading everywhere. So is loading, and here also is loading, is loading, When we hover on this, it is saying object literal may only specify unknown property is loading does not exist type in the auth state. So in our auth state, we have not passed the is loading, right? We have to pass the is loading here. So we have to pass this property here, right? Then the is loading is fixed, right? So we have to pass the there, and here the error thing we don't need to write here the 401, just simply remove this, so no need of that. So now the error has been fixed, right? So we have created our auth context, right? And each error has been fixed that was coming. So that is the type of TypeScript. When you have any mistake, it will give the error at the coding time only. So we have to build the remaining thing. What are the remaining things we have to build? So we have completed components, all the context, service types. Now we have to remain with the pages. So in pages we have to build the dashboard, sign in and sign up. So we will build the pages, all those three pages, in the next tutorial. So hope you guys like the tutorial, and if you have any doubt you can comment and I will reply. So thanks for watching, we'll meet in next tutorial.